For a limited time at McDonald's, get a Big Mac Extra Value Meal for $8. That means 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun, and medium fries, and a drink. We may need to change that jingle.
Prices and participation may vary.
Did I put the clothes in the dryer? I hope they don't think I was serious.
I need to be
about
awake.
Snacks. I forgot my brain shut
Just
off.
sleep already.
When your racing thoughts keep you up at night, it's tough to let go and get the rest you need. Better sleep can help. You might have heard of white or brown noise, but there's a whole rainbow of color noises, and they can help you calm your mind, reduce stress, and sleep better, like the green noise you're listening to now. With the Better Sleep app, you can discover more color noises and over 200 soothing sounds, guided meditations, and bedtime stories. High-quality rest is vital to your mental well-being and physical health. Calm your restless mind, conquer your day, and sleep better at night. Download Better Sleep from the App Store or Google Play and start a 7-day trial today. Because when you sleep better, you feel better.
Good morning from below. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for Coast to Coast Hoops with myself, Greg Hoops Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an absolutely excellent podcast for you. We're going to be chatting in a few minutes with one of our good friends, Ryan McIntyre, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. We have to flesh out a little bit more about this Wofford story. We have been seeing just a lot of different things that are happening with this, as apparently players were suspended indefinitely for using their meal plans off campus. The folks over at Wofford and the NCAA are sort of like refuting the Field of 68 story, and the players that were suspended indefinitely, they are back in, but the coach is not. Dwight Perry and Tyser Anderson, who was pretty much the associate coach, he is out of the fold as well. Apparently there might be some rumors that Kevin Glittner, they are trying to woo him away from Virginia Tech, so there's a lot that's happening right now in terms of this entire ordeal, so we're going to be talking about that with Ryan, how this has all come about, what to expect from Wofford, and if we might see Dwight Perry back on the sidelines, because right now there are players over at Wofford that are threatening to boycott the season and just enter into the transfer portal, and trying to replace a roster in mid-September is just not going to happen. So we've got a lot of fun to be had there, and we're also going to be chatting with him a little bit about the Big 12 landscape. We have not talked with him since Cincinnati moved on from Jizzle James, because we've talked a little bit about Cincinnati here in the offseason. I want to get his thoughts on that team and a few of the other middle teams out there in the Big 12, including West Virginia, which he does a show called the Ryan and Rush Show that is dedicated to West Virginia athletics. So we've got a lot to dive in on with Ryan today. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at GUnit_81. Keep in mind, letters EM, name does not matter. So as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. While I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today, everything is powered by EdgeBoost. EdgeBoost is making sure that bettors are able to have access to their funds whenever and wherever they want. With EdgeBoost, 100% of gambling transactions do get approved. And when you go to edgeboost.bet, put in that promo code of Greg, G-R-E-G. That gets you a dollar for dollar match on your first deposit up to $25. Now let's talk with Ryan, who I was mentioning before. He does a great job with the Ryan and Rush Show, but also does amazing work with Kobe Dant on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. They do a show called The College Experience. That's college football for those of you guys looking for that in season, college basketball, college baseball, you name it, he does it. He was actually a part of the West Virginia coaching staff under Bob Huggins a few years ago as well, and you're able to follow him on the old Twitter/X at Moneyline_Max, spelled M-A-C. And Ryan, it is always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you having me, Greg. We're getting closer and closer to early November.
Yes, we certainly are. And for Wofford, they might be getting closer and closer to not having a season, because right now we've got a very precarious situation where with Wofford, they canned their coach about a week or so ago, and nobody knew why. Like, a lot of people were thinking, wow, Wofford making a coaching change, but it turns out the reason why they made a coaching change and fired Dwight Perry is that there were students that were utilizing their meal plan off campus for about like $100. I think that some might have been as low as $80. They also had to suspend 6 players as well. I'm not sure who all got suspended, but what do you make out of this situation? Because I thought that in the day and age of NIL and players actually getting money, that we were better than this.
I think it screams of the relationship was broken between administration and the coaching staff and athletics. So I think that they kind of wanted to get him out, and they searched for something to get him out, and that's what they landed on, because it's extremely petty. And even if he was 5-25 last year, I don't think that's something you should get fired for, yet alone that he got him to the NCAA tournament and had a great year. So, yeah, I think it screams of there was a broken relationship, whether it was the coaches, athletics, just administration within the university. They found a way to get him out.
Yep, and the good news is it appears as though all the Wofford players who were deemed ineligible by the NCAA rules, they have been reinstated by the NCAA as well. And do you think that this could be a momentum turner for Perry? Because it sounds like all the players are threatening to boycott if they don't bring him back, and I think that that would be enough pressure for the university to bring him back.
I think so too, and I'm glad that they're doing that, because it is ridiculous, to your point. So I think there is a shot, because I mean, Wofford doesn't want to lose out on all that money from a season.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, you don't have a season for Wofford, a team that just 2 years ago made the NCAA tournament. That's big for them. And if they actually do get their coach back, if they actually do get their players back, obviously it puts a little bit of a monkey wrench into the offseason workouts, all the chemistry building, what have you. But I had them at number 2 in my projector finishing the SoCon. And this is a team that legitimately, in my opinion, has a chance to be the biggest competitor to Furman, who I do think is a clear favorite in the SoCon.
I do have Furman as a favorite as well, and I had Wofford right behind. I like ETSU as well in the SoCon, and Greensboro as well. It's usually those 4 or 5 teams. I mean, there's been 6 conference championships winners in the last 6 years. I know Buckyball goes over to Texas A&M, but this league will be competitive as it always is.
Yep, I certainly think so as well, as we do have Ryan McIntyre, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, joining me right here on Coast to Coast Hoops. And I mean, if all these players for Wofford, they are reinserted like we just saw, and they do bring back their coach as well, what would be your expectations? Would you need to temper them a little bit for Wofford, or is this a case where it's just back on, shall we say, the track? Because I do think that even if they do get everything back, this is a little bit of a hindrance to them, because like I was mentioning, I do think that affecting offseason workouts, it might not seem like a lot on the surface, but it does show up, in my opinion, on the court.
I guess the other counter argument would be, would it bring the locker room closer together? Kind of an us against the world mindset. We've seen so many teams over the years rally for an interim coach. It wouldn't be an interim coach. This would be reinserting the coach, but it would be a similar situation where a ton of adversity early maybe sets them up for success once we get to conference play.
Yep, absolutely. And it's always so curious, because we always see a few coaching moves that happen between September and October. You never know what's going to happen. And a lot of people think that a season is just doomed because of a coaching change. But I want to get your thoughts here, because I still remember the Greg Marshall scandal over at Wichita State. Wichita State that same season was able to make the NCAA tournament. I do think that even though it's going to be a little bit hurtful if you do lose your coach, like we saw St. Joe's in that entire situation, that it doesn't necessarily mean that the season is completely doomed for those teams.
Yep, exactly. Back to what I was saying on the previous statement about a little bit of adversity early isn't the worst thing in the world, just because the season is so long and there's going to be twists and turns. Everybody's going to lose 2 out of 3 or 3 out of 4 or 2 games in a row at one point. And it's how you handle those times where you're not playing well, if you can get to the finish line, which is ultimately the NCAA tournament where everybody's striving to get to.
Oh, no question about it. And I do think that it's going to be a lot of fun to be taking a look at things moving forward, because I mentioned it with the other team that made a recent coaching change in St. Joe's. That one, not necessarily due to the fact that they canned him, but I feel like with Billy Lang, he might have seen the writing on the wall. He decided to join the New York Knicks, not even necessarily as like an assistant. He's going to be more in like the front office. He might be like the towel boy. I have no idea what his role is going to be, but what did you make out of that move? Because Steve Donahue is a guy that's been around the block, obviously had some failures when he was over at Penn, but at the same time, I look at him as being a rock-solid coach, and in terms of the X's and O's, I actually think he might be an upgrade for this season over Billy Lang.
I agree with the upgrade in the X's and O's. I think Lang may have jumped ship early because he was trending towards that hot seat with St. Joe's, failing to make the NCAA tournament in his first 5 years. So I'm interested to see how they play. Donahue brings a different style. At Cornell, he ran a bunch of Princeton stuff, same at Penn. Does he try and bring some of those stuffs over to St. Joe's, where they kind of recruit a different level of athlete and they play a different style of basketball?
Yep, absolutely. And as of right now, we have not seen anyone with regards to St. Joe's decide that they were going to be entering in the transfer portal or anything like that. So it looks like they're going to have their same roster there. And I do think that that entire middle of the Atlantic 10 is interesting because I actually just did my projected order finish and my conference preview for the Atlantic 10. I had St. Joe's right there in the middle. I'm not sure how you take a look at things, but I do think that even though a lot of people are going to pick the likes of VCU towards the top, I actually did not land on VCU personally. I actually think that George Washington is going to be able to win the conference with everything that they've got coming back, but I do think that the margin between like number 3 and number 8 might be as slim as it has been in quite some time, and in the Atlantic 10, as we both know, it's usually very, very slim.
Yeah, I was getting ready to say, I think you can make a case for maybe 7, 8 teams, and that league has become more and more parity. Dayton's come back a little bit to the pack under Anthony Grant. VCU's going through another change, although they're kind of coach-proof with the run that they've been on with Martelli now taking over the program. So I have VCU at top. I think St. Joe's is somewhere in that maybe 8 to 10 range. Interested to see what it looks like under Donahue. It's going to be exciting.
Absolutely, and I feel like this is one of those conferences where it's very easy to have a surprise team because you have so many teams in the middle where it's like, there is actually one team that I like, and is there one that you're taking a look at where you're thinking, man, maybe this team is getting a little bit disrespected and maybe they should be picked a little bit higher than like the bottom / the middle. Like I take a look at my projector of finish, I feel like Duquesne should be right there in like that number 6, number 7 range, and I do feel like Davidson might be able to sneak in that middle as well.
I was going to say GW, but you picked him to win the league. So yeah. I'll give out another one. I think the Bonnies will be better than what people are expecting. I just trust Mark Schmidt. I think he runs a great program. Even when they're young, they seem to get better and better throughout the year. And then when they get older, those seem to be their better teams. So either way, I like the Bonnies to hang in there and be a top 5-6 team again in the A10.
With St. Bonaventure, it always feels like Dr. Schmidt does a pretty rock solid job in terms of just getting things online in general. Now, the big thing with Dr. Schmidt is that he feels like if he were to open up a restaurant, he'd be doing a knockoff of Five Guys because he plays Five Guys and absolutely nothing else. But you know what? He's always very rock solid in terms of being able to get the most out of his teams, as well as Ryan McIntyre does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, is joining me here on Coast to Coast Hoops. And with Ryan, I know that he and Kobe Dant do a tremendous coaches series over there on the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, so we'll chat with him next. If there's any takeaways to be had from what these coaches say during the offseason, or if it's just a big giant load of fluff, and we do have to dive in on some of these Big 12 teams, what to expect out of West Virginia, Cincinnati, and so much more. That's on the flip side, right here on Coast to Coast Hoops with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the Beats and Family Podcast.
At RX Bar, they believe in simple nutrition without the BS. That's why they said no to artificial ingredients and yes to deliver intentional, transparent nutrition. Try their original 12-gram protein bar, the nut butter and oat bar, or minis. RX Bar, the proud sponsor of No BS. Use code RXBAR on rxbar.com for 25% off. Subject to full terms and conditions and to change. Valid until September 30, 2025, and may not be combined with other offers. See rxbar.com for full details and limitations.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for Coast to Coast Hoops with myself, Greg Hoops Peterson, now part of the VC Family Podcast, being rejoined by Ryan McIntyre, who does such great work over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network. We're going to be chatting in a few minutes with him about the Big 12, and very fitting that he does the show, the Ryan and Rush Show, that is dedicated all to West Virginia athletics. You're able to follow Ryan on the old Twitter /X at Moneyline_Max, spelled M-A-C, and I know that you and Kobe Dant over at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network do an incredible job year in and year out by interviewing a lot of different college basketball coaches with your coaches series. Have you talked to any guys recently, for one? And two, are there a few things that you look at with regards to these interviews that you have with your coaches that does cause you to sometimes maybe reverse course and change your opinion on them a little bit?
Not as much, and I know we're approaching media days as well, just because I feel like everybody to a certain degree likes their team. And it's a lot of coach speak, so it's a lot of fluff this time of year is what I like to call it. I mean, if a coach isn't high on his team before they lose a game, then it's going to be a really, really long year. So you kind of just know what they're going to say. We need to see it. We need to see actual game footage for these teams that just have so much replacement in the transfer portal.
So well said, because I feel like a lot of fans, they always get hyped up for media days. They're always like, my alma mater is going to win the national title and everything like that. Presbyterian Blue House to the Final Four and everything like that. And it always causes for a little bit of chuckle there. And it usually doesn't produce too much. And like you said, if you're a coach and you're not speaking highly of your team before the start of the season, why should anyone else have any faith in your team as well? But we always do have faith in you, Ryan, and I always know that you do a rock solid job in terms of taking a look at your alma mater, as you also do the Ryan and Rush show that's all about West Virginia athletics. So obviously there's been a lot of chatter about college football recently, but how are things looking with regards to the fact that you guys bring in Coach Hodge, and it feels like a West Virginia team that is going to be very similar to what it was a season ago, a little bit of a slower grinder team, and a team that's going to be built a little bit more on the defensive side of things?
Yeah, well said. I think that it'll be kind of a bubble team once again in Morgantown. I think that they could get on the right side of it. I do like some of their veteran pieces. I know a lot of them come from the mid-major ranks, but a lot of guys coming from mid-major ranks that come from winning programs. So Hodge is a good coach. I actually saw him last week in Morgantown when I was up for the Pitt football game. He likes his team, but like I said, everybody likes their team this time of year. But one thing you know with Hodge, they're going to guard. They're going to guard and they're going to compete. So I think it's a good fit. It's a good marriage, and I'm looking forward to the new era in Morgantown.
Absolutely. And we just talked about the big giant middle that there's going to be in the Atlantic 10. And I'm not sure if you look at this the same way, but I feel like there's your clear top 4/top 5 teams in the Big 12. I'll actually go as far as 6 because Houston, I think, is that definitive number 1. In order to be the man, you got to beat the man. And right now they're the man. And then you've got the likes of Arizona, Kansas, Iowa State, BYU, and then Texas Tech always needs to be thrown in there with the run that they made last season. But I feel like sort of that 7 through 12-ish, we're going to call it that, because I think that there's a clear bottom 4. I feel like that's going to be really intriguing with the likes of Baylor, Cincinnati, and who we just mentioned, West Virginia, and a team that I'm just starting to like a little bit more in TCU that we just talked about West Virginia and knowing that they're going to guard. I feel like we can have that same expectation for TCU and the roster that they're fielding too.
Yeah, because, you know, Jamie's teams are going to compete, they're going to guard, they're going to rebound the basketball, and they're going to be athletic. So I'm always high on TCU. I think that they could get that thing back to the dance after missing for the first time in 3 years. I do agree Houston is the cream of the crop, especially with all that they're bringing back. Kelvin Sampson is good a coach as anybody in the country. Love Iowa State and Otzelberger and that culture that they continue to do. I think Kansas is flying under the radar. I think Kansas has better role guys and better pieces to fit with Peterson. I just think that last year they had too many flashy names and it just wasn't a well thought out roster. The Big 12, it's going to be fun. It's, in my opinion, the best coach league and great home atmosphere. So it'll be another great year in the Big 12.
Hey, so glad that you mentioned that. This podcast is the exact same way as Kansas as well. We need great pieces to fit around Peterson, and we got a great guest right now. So, you know what? Very well said there by our good friend Ryan McIntyre. And we have not talked to you about this. We've talked about Cincinnati a few times with you on the podcast here in the offseason, but not since they lost Jizzle James. And I feel like that was a big loss for them. And I want to get your thoughts now on Cincinnati, because it just felt like to me for Wes Miller, this is a put up or shut up year for him. I thought that Jizzle James was really going to be one of the cornerstones of this offense and that backcourt, because we know how good they're going to be down low with Mustafa Thiem. We know that you're going to be able to get some good rebounding out of Baba Miller as well. But how do you take a look at this team now that they don't have Jizzle James in there? Because I feel like Kirk Kriisa coming off of injury is now going to be demanded to do a whole heck of a lot for them.
Which causes me for concern. I'm not the biggest Kirk Kriisa guy. I
you saw him up close and in person.
Yeah, I mean, he's been so up and down. I have my questions with Wes Miller and the fit at Cincinnati. Can they get it going? Last year, they were underwhelming. 2 years ago, they were underwhelming as well. This is a big year. I think this is a hot seat year for Wes Miller. He's got to get this thing to the tournament.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And with losing a guy like Jizzle James so late in the process, that does really cause me a little bit of concern there. And then I just think that Baylor's, again, an interesting team in this conference as well, because they were obviously one of the biggest underachievers in all of college basketball last season. But I like the way that they were able to approach the transfer portal. No doubt about it. They lose much of that backcourt from a season ago. But I do still feel like Coach Drew is a guy that knows exactly what he's doing. And I feel like they did a really good job of just having complementary pieces. And we were just talking about Cincinnati. They bring in a guy in Dan Skillings that very much knows about the Big 12.
Like you said, this is just a make or break year for the Bearcats, and there's no nights off. So in Cincinnati, what we've seen over the last couple of years is they've dropped games against the UCFs of the world and the Utahs and company. We haven't even mentioned BYU. I mean, BYU is going to be a top 5 team preseason. So this league's a juggernaut.
Oh, it certainly is going to be. And I always love to ask you about this because I know that you, much like myself, are grinding through, working hard to get set for the upcoming season. Just in the last few weeks, is there a team or two that you're feeling a little bit more bullish on that as you've been doing your research and your due diligence, you feel a little bit different about them now than you did maybe towards the beginning of the offseason?
Yeah, let's go to the mid-majors, Greg. I think Long Island should be the front runner in the NEC. I think Rod Strickland's elevated the talent year by year, and they took a huge step after winning just 3 games, and they won 7. Then last year they won, 15? I think LIU should be the front runner over Central Connecticut and Wagner this year in the NEC. I think they got a good team coming back.
Oh, I picked LIU as number 1 in my projector finish for this conference. I am in wholehearted agreement with you there. Central Connecticut does lose quite a bit themselves, so I think that was very well stated by you. And Ryan, I know that you're doing an absolutely amazing job getting set for this upcoming college basketball season. You're working hard over there at the Sports Gambling Podcast Network, where it's obviously more than just college basketball. You and Kobe Dant are doing an amazing job taking a look at the college football scene when college baseball is in our lives. I know that you're doing a great job there, and let the people at home know what's all on tap for you and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Always appreciate it, Greg. Yes, go check out the college experience, college football, college basketball, and college baseball year round. It's going to get really fun here when we got football and basketball going at the same time.
Absolutely. It is going to be amazing. And Ryan, he does a great job of being able to cover it all. And every single time he joins this podcast, he makes us all a little bit smarter. So a big thanks to Ryan for joining me on Coast to Coast Hoops, now part of the VSiN family podcast. And if you do like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, Coast to Coast Hoops, you're able to subscribe wherever you hear podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, iTunes. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at gunit_81. Keep in mind, Larcy, they meet us on Matters, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. And the other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. I'm with you guys every single day on this podcast, regular season and off season, and keep in mind that there are 5 more conference previews coming on this podcast. We've gone through all the smaller conferences, so the Power 5, they're going to be coming your way the next few weeks. I'll probably do like 1, maybe 1.5 a week, and then we'll have the final week or 2 to get set for the upcoming season. Then we're going to get picks and analysis to you guys every single day, but along the way, I'm with you guys regular season and off season, so I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.
If your small business is booming, you might say,
cha-ching!
But you should say,
like a good neighbor, State Farm is there!
And we'll help your growing business. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Pacifico is a Mexican lager brewed to be discovered. It's like fresh tracks on a powder day. Like that uncharted trail a stone's throw away. Like the perfect wave on a sunny day. Pacifico. Find your own way. 21 plus. Drink responsibly. Imported by Crown Imports, Chicago, Illinois.
At RX Bar, they believe in simple nutrition without the BS. That's why they said no to artificial ingredients and yes to deliver intentional, transparent nutrition. Try their original 12-gram protein bar, the nut butter and oat bar, or minis. RX Bar, the proud sponsor of No BS. Use code RXBAR on rxbar.com for 25% off. Subject to full terms and conditions and to change. Valid until September 30, 2025, and may not be combined with other offers. See rxbar.com for full details and limitations.